But yeah, we're gonna watch this video, guys. Let's see what it's about. Let's go.
New interview from Wowhead with Birmingham about the state of Wrath the Lich King and how they are thinking about moving things forwards. As part of the channel and keeping you up to date on everything Wrath of the Lich King related, I thought today we could go over it and have a bit of a talk about what was discussed. We have a lot of new info coming out about what they want to do and their design decisions, so let's go into it. We're going to start off with the ever-present talk about Dungeon Finder. They say...
So I'm gonna pause the video here. I personally would prefer if Dungeon Finder was in the game. That's just me, okay? Everyone has their opinion. I just think it's like a nice thing to have if you're on a dead server and it's very hard to find dungeon groups because it would be cross-realm. And then those people are able to play the game properly instead of having to be forced to transfer off to another server.
Our goal is to provide a tool that makes it easy to find groups without sacrificing human-to-human interaction. He goes on to say the biggest problem with the Burning Crusades tool is that it's just not widely used. So we'd like to make it more enticing by streamlining its interface or...
So he's talking about this, right? This is the Burning Crusade tool. I have a feeling that Blizzard might add the LFG tool that exists in retail. Like where you sign up for groups and stuff, because that's like way easier to use. That's what I think is gonna happen, personally.
Adding an incentive to try it. I think the thing I like least about the current iteration of the Dungeon Finder is the spam and having to look for other people. There's not much going on when you're just watching a screen of spam flying past you. Also, in regards to people not using it at the moment, that's because the bulletin board add-on exists. I've said it before and I'll say it again, they're clearly intent on changing this and I will see what they will do in the beta.
Yeah, no one likes the bulletin board. Like, it's better to just have the
as it was in
thing.
Wrath if they cannot find something that feels as though it works today in Classic. Next on race and faction changes, this is the most confusing bit for me. So they say we saw a lot of interest from the role-playing community with Classic's original launch, and part of the draw for that audience is your experiences feel consistent with the world you're in. Fantasy races are dramatically different species, and while it makes sense for a giant tauren can stun you with a stomp of their hoof on the ground, and a tiny gnome can wiggle free from entangling roots, there's no in-world reason why a tauren would be able to suddenly become a gnome or vice versa. And
wait, so they're saying the reason why there won't be faction change is because it makes no sense for you to change your race or faction. That is an interesting way of looking at it, I guess.
Anyone think of a certain trinket which already does that exact thing because it's magic? I don't think there has to be a reason why.
Yeah, or like the entry teleporter.
He also goes on to say they don't want to give everybody the same racials in arena as it would stop certain interactions from being possible, and if instead they gave everybody the ability to choose their racial in arena, it would interfere with your ability to predict and counter your opponent. We joked around with disallowing racial abilities entirely and having goblin referees that run onto the field and throw a red card if you use one. I mean, as for racials in arena and balancing them, well, let's take a look at Shadowlands.
Great idea.
Surely, after all this time has gone by, things are more balanced on the retail game. They've had years and years to get them in a good state. Oh wait, about 40% of players are orc and nearly 80%.
Yeah, everything is so balanced in retail, bro. Good one, WillE.
The arena player base is horde due to racials.
78% are horde, man.
Racials have always proven too impactful to balance easily. So do you just remove them from arena then? It feels as though it's part of the arena experience which has existed and it's just something that you play around.
I don't like the idea of removing racials in arena. I think that's... I mean, I get the appeal of that, but they add a certain level of gameplay, right? Like, I mean, you know, how you use your racial is gonna... Like, if you're like a dumb player, like this is what I do when I do arena. I run in and I pop my orc racial, which makes me take 50% less healing, and then I die. That's good. Dumb players like me that have their racial macro to like all their abilities deserve to like fail like that, you know? Like it's like you can make a mistake by using a damage cooldown. You know, it's cool.
About if you pick a racial and it had a little buff under your character so other people could see what racial you have, but then again they might as well just give every man for himself or whatever they've called it now.
This is now called something else, right? I forgot, what did they call it? Will to survive? I don't know. What's it called? It's not every man for himself. I think it's like will to survive. I don't know.
nowadays, because that's clearly the most powerful ratio going. On top of this, allowing faction change is going to push the player base more clearly to picking what's best for their preferred area
Those
of
weapons
content.
look so
I feel
cool,
as
man.
though people go on all the time
Where is this from, guys? This offhand looks insane, dude.
about human and every man for himself being OP and Wrath, which is true, but
Yo.
that's for the PvP player base, which we've seen so far
The
is
Nax?
a lot less than
Nice.
the
Probably my
PvE
ex,
player
right?
base. And Horde are better at that with Berserking and Blood Fury. For me, it doesn't look as though there's clearly this is a better option one way or the other.
Berserking
and it
is
would
so
probably
good
be
in
best
Wrath.
just to leave things as they were in Wrath. It's funny really, because at the moment Blizzard have chosen to not include a cash shot feature in the game, and they're getting grief for it. They literally just cannot win. Also, they say on the subject of restricting transfers between PvE and PvP servers and limiting PvP servers to a single faction per account, they're still talking about it and will have more to say soon. I feel they could very much relax these restrictions at this point too. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry to
I don't
say,
know
there
why
just
this
aren't
is
really
even
any
a thing.
PvP servers anymore, bar a select few, and it would benefit more people overall.
Would
Next
be
up,
nice.
Winter Grasp on faction imbalanced servers, aka servers. So they say our current thought is that maybe we will have a backdoor of sorts to let you into Vault of Archivon if you don't currently control Winter Grasp, but the entry will cost some things so that you're still incentivized to compete, or to gain high stacks of tenacity, which was a buff given to players who were outnumbered in Winter Grasp to help them win. This would turn the majority of Winter Grasp you'd experience into a handful of mega OP players versus, well,
Wait, what? Wait, I'm dumb, bro. So, you get a buff because you're less players?
This would
Oh, so you're outnumbered, you get this huge buff.
turn the
Okay.
majority of Winter Grasp you'd experience into a handful of mega OP players
Dude, this is kind of cool, man. I don't know, bro. Like, who cares about BGs? Like, BGs are the most dumb stuff in the game. Like, you're forced to do it to get rewards, right? You don't do it because, like, you enjoy it. Like, I don't believe so. Like, most people that do BGs, they're like watching Netflix and they're auto running, all right? So they can get like their 2k honor per hour. This would be like kind of cool, you know? You get a huge buff. Like, I remember this is gonna be such a unpopular opinion. I actually liked Ashran. Hear me out. I actually enjoyed Ashran because you could get this buff that would give you so much damage increase, and you would pop the legendary ring, and you would one-shot people. Like, it was fun. You know, it's like broken. Like, it was. I don't want a BG to be balanced. Like, if I want to have a balanced experience, I'll go play, I don't know, League of Legends. Okay. I don't play WoW because it's balanced, bro. I play WoW because there's some broken things you can do in the game, and it's fun to exploit them, right?
versus, well, the rest of you. So as of patch 3.2, which was Trial of the Crusade,
It's getting hot in here. I'm turning on the
changed to
AC.
a queue system of 120 versus 120 maximum. So on big servers, it would be less than 1% of the player base fighting for something that 100% of the player base can benefit from against like 20 or 30 giga overpowered players who might struggle to go on to put a raid together for Vault of Archivon. I don't know, the whole system just seems bad if I'm honest. And if there was a backdoor to the raid, there's still the vendors out the front for the Stonekeeper shards and so on. And there's faction guards
I think that's
absolutely
cool. I like the
everywhere.
buff.
Do you just put a goblin smuggler at the back door who sells stuff for like 20% more than they would if you controlled the zone? And retail has bot AI as well. I use the word AI very lightly here for Battlegrounds. They could be ported over to Wintergrass Classic to fill the gaps of missing players, so at least big servers get to play the game of Wintergrass. Otherwise it's going to be you sitting on a wall doing nothing for 30 minutes if there's a back door. Nobody's going to compete, are they?
Why not make a cross server? Like, it's a cross server, this. Like, I don't get it.
You know what, people would probably hate this idea because you would have to play Wintergrass or you'd lose to bots and people would find that inconvenient when they just want access to it all the time. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw it out there. Next, pre-nerf and post-nerf boss encounters in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So when Brian was asked about whether they're considering this for the expansion, he says that wasn't as much the case with Wrath of the Lich King. There just weren't as many catch-up nerfs outside a few outliers. So you already know me, I had to go and check
Nerfing Naxxramas, man.
boss
What?
as per the available patch notes. So Naxxramas, no boss changes to speak of, though there was the ability to skip directly to Saf and KT, which was added in patch 3.3. I can see this one being added earlier. Eye of Eternity players actually get buffed. This goes for the Oculus 2 as the Drakes begin to scale with your average item level. Sartharian's Lair, there was a few changes noted here as well, particularly with the Drakes. Ulduar, the trash in the instance gets nerfed many times over.
Ulduar, boys.
I think when people talk pre-nerf though, they're caring more about the bosses changes than the trash. But on a boss by boss basis, Flame Leviathan was nerfed several times from its health to its ads. Ignis underwent many changes and damage nerf to the encounters. Razor Scale had many nerfs, and at this point I went and looked through the rest of the bosses, and literally everything in Ulduar was nerfed, from damage to health to abilities to ads. One
Don't nerf
interesting
it
thing to note
fast,
here is
like
that all
tier
these
5,
nerfs
please.
were done through hotfixes in about a month or so duration after the raid released. There very
Ulduar
much seems to be
GDKPs,
grounds here
boys.
for a post nerf and
Dude, imagine Ulduar GDKP, 0 Drakes. How much would the mount go for, man? Like, dude, that would be
this is what you
crazy.
remember doing from Ulduar. If you raided it week 1 or 2, it would be good to hear from people who did it back in the day.
Whatever,
In
0
fact, overall, this
helpers,
raid
I
has
don't
the
know what
most
it's called.
changes I've ever seen documented from a single instance by a considerable margin. Moving on to Trial of the Crusader, again, many hotfixes that took place around 1 month after the raid release. Here's the Beast of Northrend changes, for instance, and the faction champions all had a large portion of their damage nerfed.
Dude, that's a
Let's be
big
real,
nerf,
who wants
50,
a difficult
50%.
faction champions fight? The rest of the encounters were largely unchanged, save for some bug nerfs. For ICC, Brian brings up the passive buff that was gradually added, saying instead of it being ramped up week upon week, that you can pick the amount of buff that you want, so you can more or less choose the difficulty of the raid. As for a boss by boss breakdown, again, much like the previous
You can
raids,
pick like
there were many
50%.
changes across many of the
Why
bosses.
would you do that?
Plenty of them are bug fixes or changes to the encounters to prevent certain unintended ways of completing a fight, but there's certainly some pre and post nerf in there as well. All in all, this looks way more complicated to consider than pre and post nerf was for TBCs, where bosses just had more or less health and perhaps one ability removed. But hopefully Blizzard do consider and go back and have a look at pre and post nerf Wrath of the Lich King, since now we have different difficulties for the content. Players can already choose to some extent what level of challenge they are comfortable with. Regarding dual specialization, Brian confirms they are no longer considering any changes to how dual spec worked originally.
Thank
People who
you.
want to play more than one spec, rejoice. I'm happy they've gone back on this. Dual spec feels like an easy win that they don't really need to touch to make it good. And finally, regarding PvP and Arena in Wrath Classic, they talked a lot about the Ring of Valor, as in which state to release it in. During Wrath of the Lich King, this arena was quite literally always a buggy RNG.
What is
filled
this
mess,
place?
and
I've
I
never
don't
seen
remember
this.
people enjoying it too much at the time either. But all in all, they say they're still working on which version they want to release. And that is all the news at the moment. As always, guys, thank you all so much
seen
for
that
watching
arena
and
before.
listening in, and I will see you all in the next one very soon.
Guys, amazing video. I'm gonna link it in chat. Can you rate how did I react to this video? I mean, I'm trying, you know, like, just be honest with me, you know, like, it's fine. Like, just be honest. Rate 2 out of 10, 2, 5, 6, 1, 6, 1, 2. You reacted? Of course I reacted. What? Didn't you hear me say comments about it? I was reacting, man. 6 out of 10. Dude, I'll take a 6, okay? 4 out of 10. Alright. Listen, I'm stalling right now. My raid is in like 4 p.m. So I have 48 minutes to kill. So now we watch one more WillE video. And then maybe invite setup. And then we can stall a couple more, you know? Like, it's all good.